Is everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here for removing pesticides from our public spaces. We've got a lot of great guests for you, and thanks for being here with us. I'd like to introduce, unfortunately, Warren Porter will not be with us live, but he recorded a video for us. He is Emeritus Professor of Integrative Biology, University of Wisconsin, researched how agricultural chemicals influence immune system, endocrine systems, and neurological health.
Okay.
Is there supposed to be a video playing or something?
There is supposed to be a video playing. It's a pre-recorded video, if you'll just bear with us a moment.
Okay.
While we're waiting, I forgot to introduce myself, and I'm sorry. My name is Delilah, and I'm with Texas Greens.
The video is not playing.
The audio is not.
Audio is not playing.
Well, I'm not getting the video at all either.
Right.
Okay. Let's see what I can do. Do you see that now? Does anybody see that?
Nope.
No,
Not
Joe.
Oh, geez.
Fortunately not.
Okay. How about now?
It's up.
Yeah, it looks like
It
it's
looks right.
We don't have audio.
It
Hasn't
hasn't started.
playing.
Good evening, I'm Warren Porter. I would like to talk with you briefly about pesticide use and how it's generating unexpected relationships and risks to animals and humans.
Okay.
If you have questions, you could check out this YouTube video later, which will give you a lot more details. And if you still have questions, you can reach me here at my email address at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I want to ask you, we want to talk about a couple things tonight. Firstly, how do pesticides sneak into your body? A key basic principle is that fats dissolve in fats, and that is a very important general concept because it's the basis for how pesticides are designed to kill weeds, for example. This is a cross section through a leaf or an insect. And the outer surface is a waxy surface, which means that you need some liquid solvents to add to your active ingredient. Put those together and you can dissolve in this material and get right through into the center part of the cell to kill this organism. The other alternative way to get in is through the breathing pores, the stomates of cells or the spiracles of insects, which have this hemispherical half ball of water film, which has surface tension on it, and you can put surfactants in there, and that'll weaken the surface tension. You can get through here easily. So you can get through two different ways into your organism to kill it. Unfortunately for us, we have a waxy surface to our skin, which you can see when you step into the shower and how the water beads up on your skin. And also, of course, we have to breathe, and so we've got respiratory surfaces that have our alveoli, which have these same hemispherical balls of water surface that has surface tension. And so these same inert or other ingredients here, which are the non-ionic solvents and the surfactants, are added to the mix to facilitate penetration into pests, but it also means penetration into us. And it's also important to realize that the EPA registration process, inerts are not part of that process. And so we functionally have a bait and switch process where you register the pesticide, but you forget about using these things and how much activity they add and how much threat they present to an organism that's exposed to them. We also found out in 2018 from Lafarge's paper, from Defarge, that the heavy metals like arsenic, cadmium, cobalt, chromium, nickel, and lead can be added to these off-the-shelf pesticide mixtures as a way of disposing of toxic materials. How do you design a pesticide to get into a cell to kill it? Now you've got it, we've got figured out how to get it into the organism. Now how do we get it into the cells? Because the cells have got these lipid membranes around them, and then here are all the goodies in here that we'd like to interfere with. So what you do is you create a molecule that has a fat-soluble structure, like a ring-shaped structure, like this nitrogen-carbon, nitrogen-carbon, nitrogen-carbon ring, which basically has no electrostatic charge. This makes it fat-soluble or lipid-soluble. And then you hang off of that ring a nitrogen and maybe a couple of hydrogens to give it a positive charge. Just let's say that this is what we do. Now, why would you want to do that? Because firstly, fats dissolve in fats. So you bring this molecule, diffuses down here, makes contact with the cell membrane, which has a lipid surface, and it dissolves in that lipid surface and gets into the cell. Now, once it's inside the cell, the electrostatic charge could take over, because the second principle here, opposite charges attract, will allow it to be attracted over here to the mitochondrion to get in here and break up the transfer of electrons and the energy production of the cell, and the cell dies. Or it could get over here into the DNA and break it up and prevent the cell from replicating, or turn it into a cancerous kind of cell. Or it could be attracted down here to a chloride ion or chloride ions that are used in cell-cell communication, disrupting cell communication, especially between nerve cells. So there are lots of different things that it can do. We basically have a molecular bull in a china shop.
Excuse me, can you increase the volume?
Which is glyphosate plus surfactants and non-ionic solvents. What do we know about what it can do and the implications of what it can do? We know that it can induce DNA damage, which will alter gene expression, which will alter embryonic developmental patterns. We know that it can lower aromatase, which converts testosterone to estrogen, which can change the hormone balance in fetuses if the fetus happens to be developing, and that will change the fetal brain and gonad development, which will change the sex organs and the sexual preferences of the organism. It can stimulate retinoic acids pathway, which is involved in producing vitamin A, and you overproduce vitamin A and you get more.
I think no one is able to hear this video. How long does it go on for? And is there something to do?
Mitochondria.
It's 10 minutes and it's as loud as I can make it. It was recorded very low.
Processes which
so should we just turn it off since no one can hear it?
I can hear it.
I can hear it.
I can hear it.
Let it go if it's only 10 minutes.
Key synthetic pathway that makes amino acids for bacteria. And if bacteria start to die, if this stuff gets into your gut, for example, it could induce loss of beneficial bacteria in the gut. And those bacteria are responsible for about 70%
I still can read it.
functions. That's all coming from the gut. Roundup is used as a pre-harvest dryer or weed killer. And they may put it on a week before harvest for cane, beet sugars, or grains, which means that it can get into your foods like Quaker and General Mills cereals, showing traces of Roundup in it, as the Environmental Working Group showed. And it can tie up metal ions like calcium, magnesium, zinc, and copper. They're involved in promoting DNA copying and in general biological catalytic enzyme reactions. And so you can check all this out by going to the PAN glyphosate monograph in 2016 or going to research articles like Mordicini's in 2003 in the Journal of Biological Chemistry, Masnagi or Environmental Health in 2015, and Tang et al. Environmental Pollution 2020. So the evidence is hiding in plain sight, and you can check it out on Google Scholar. Finally, I want to talk about current status of three key human systems, the endocrine, the neurological, endocrine, immune systems. The first one we want to talk about is the neurological system, the rate of US autism birth rates in 2014. This is a film from Martin Boudreau, and in 1975, 1 in 5,000 births was autistic. 2014, we climbed exponentially to 1 in 68. A year later, 1 in 45 US births was autistic, and later data recently out shows even more autistic births happening. We also can look at what's happening with our endocrine systems. Our male sperm counts have been declining steadily at about 2-3% per year for ever since the mid 1930s, when males were producing up to 130 milliliters sperm per milliliter, about the size of a sugar cube, and 2 to 3% per year has taken us down now to 2017, where our sperm counts in males is down to about 35 million sperm per milliliter. And if we get down to 25 million, we know that we will have more deaths than births planet-wide. Finally, our immune systems. We've had great success with vaccines, diminishing rheumatic fever, mumps, measles, hepatitis A, tuberculosis. But at the same time, we've seen a major escalation of chronic immune disorders like type 1 diabetes, asthma, Crohn's disease, MS, and many others, including cancer, which is a problem with immune system functions. So we've got a lot of different kinds of things going on, and we need to be able to get as much of the pesticide and chemicals out of our environment as we possibly can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all so much for listening to that, and thank you, Joe, for sharing your screen with us. I would like to introduce our next speaker. This is Bertha Lewis. She is the Executive Director of the Black Institute, Brooklyn, New York. She'll present evidence on the overuse of pesticides in communities of color. And welcome, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you all for having me, and hello, everybody from all around the country and all you guys to all ships at sea. So I'm here to talk about how the previous folks that talked about glyphosates, the most insidious pesticides, is a racist form of environmental racism. Now, as some of you know, I am from the Black Institute. We are a think tank that takes action. So we're an action tank. We talk about environmental justice, economic fairness, education, and immigration reform as it pertains to Black people and people of color here in the United States and throughout the diaspora. Now, in our Poison Pox report, which if you guys want, anybody wants to get it, later on, we certainly can get it because there is certainly poison in our parks. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're cooking with gas. Now,
Yes.
on our next slide, I wanted to say that glyphosate, commonly known as a herbicide, is the most insidious. We have some folks from Florida, and they are in a community that is overusing Roundup. And Roundup, we know, is made by the dreaded corporation Monsanto, but it is used all over New York City parks. It is not only probably a carcinogen, it is a carcinogen, and it's been linked to all kinds of diseases, cancers, kidney diseases, birth defects, chromosomal, you name it. It is the big villain, as the previous thing showed. This is a very gruesome picture, but I think it's important. Dwayne Lee Johnson won his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma case against Monsanto. He won in 2019. He proved it in court that spraying Roundup did all of this to him. And this is a picture just of his hand, but it's all over his body.
Horrible.
The use of glyphosates is racist. It is being sprayed in communities of color at a disproportionate rate. In Roy Wilkins Park, it is 100% concentrated, and that affects people, the Black and brown people of that community. But basically, it's only supposed to be sprayed in 2 to 3% proportions. But the levels in a park, Idlewild and Queens, we can tell is between 33 and 50% concentration. We tried to do a FOIL request, and we found that of the 50 parks in New York City, 42 of them in Harlem, which is 62% Black and brown, that is where a lot of this was being sprayed with abandon. So we know that tens of thousands of New Yorkers unwittingly, unknowingly, has been affected. City workers, 77%, which are people of color, have been affected. The disposals of herbicide and waste predominantly is routed through Black and brown neighborhoods. Just in the South Bronx, it is like ground zero for asthma rates and mortality due to air pollution. Okay, we all know this. In white and wealthier neighborhoods, you don't have this kind of problem. And not only are community of colors being affected, but they're being affected by waste transfer stations, and they are hit harder everywhere, but they have the least resources. And the other insidious thing is you can't get good data. You can't get good reporting on this. And so a lot of times we can guesstimate, but thanks to all of you and people like you, we are getting the real facts. I want to show you a little map of where the parks are located. All of these red circles that you see on your screen in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Staten Island. The parks are everywhere, and that means that we are exposed every single place. And especially when we're talking about COVID-19. You know, before COVID, there was a strain on our communities. And so COVID has exacerbated everything. We understand that parks are where, you know, low income, moderate income, even rich people go, you know, because it's accessible. They're public parks. As more people get vaccinated and go outside, it is only going to bring this up even more. And it's just another season when you put your blanket down on that grass in the parks, you bring your pets, you put your babies down on the blanket, you roll around, you're out there with your Frisbees. Let me tell you folks, you are being poisoned. Now, in 2019, we introduced a bill, resolution 1524. These two lovely looking people are two of the main sponsors, Council Members Callos and Council Members Rivera. We started this in 2019. We had a hearing in January of 2020, and so far, we've had 34 sponsors, veto tooth majority. It would pass. There would be nothing anybody could do about it. And yet, our progressive Speaker of the City Council, who's also running for higher office, won't bring it to the floor for a vote. Spring has sprung, people. We need to get this bill done. We have done this in other cities in New York State, and we've done this in other cities around the country. And the Speaker just continues to not bring it to the floor. But this isn't just something that we created out of the air. This amends Local Law 37, which is already on the books, which talks about so-called permissible pesticides, but we wanted to add Roundup and glyphosates to it. So as of today, we have reconciled the bill. So keep your fingers crossed. We think we might get something done. So here's what needs to happen. We know that this needs to pass in New York City because as New York City goes, so goes a lot of stuff. We got a little bit of daylight. Our governor is under attack. So who knows? We might get anything done in this so-called progressive town. You know, we know there's a thing called Avenger, which is an organic, non-chemical. We want to adopt an integrated pest management. It is just that the Parks Department and the City of New York have always done things the same way, and we're gonna disabuse them of that notion, and we wanna incorporate better reporting. When you have the data, you have the facts and you can fight back. And finally, maybe some of you are asking, what can I do? You can go to our website, theblackinstitute.org /poison parks. We have a petition. You can see the site online. Read our report. We make it very plain English. If you're in New York City, contact your city council member and tell them to contact our progressive speaker, Corey Johnson, join our coalition, and just go to our website, theblackinstitute.org, or just call us up. We answer the phone, and we still have landlines too, 212-871-6899. So we hope that this has been short, but we hope it has been helpful to you. Glyphosates are a scourge, and we are in the good fight, and we're hoping to get this passed very, very soon. So anything that you all can do that you're on this call, weigh in, because as you all know, power concedes nothing without a demand, and we have to fight for everything. So thank you all for being on.
Thank you so much, Bertha. That was a very good speech. Don't forget to look up her website for more information, y'all. Our next speaker I'll be happy to introduce is M. Ward, Green Party of Albuquerque Metro. Let's see, participated in an effort to stop the use of glyphosate on county administered properties in Bernalillo County.
Hello, peace, saludos de la tierra encantada, and hello from the Tiwa homelands. So as mentioned, the Green Party of the Albuquerque metropolitan area conducted a petition drive toward restricting the use of glyphosate in our 4-county area. Ultimately, our request was for Bernalillo County, the most populous of the 4-county area and the only one on record as using glyphosate on public lands. Our request was for them to voluntarily stop using it. So we presented 500 signatures, which for Albuquerque Metro is a good number. Drop in the bucket for New York or Chicago or LA. And we had, we presented that at a meeting, and it was actually a series of meetings, but the commissioners ultimately voted unanimously to stop using glyphosate and requested an integrated management plan from the staff. So that was all great. They put their money where their mouths were. Staff said, we need $1 million to do this. They said, here's your $1 million. So it sounded all great, a big victory. And it was close to being great, but there were a few bumps and perhaps continue to be bumps in the road. And one was a big one was the unexpected reluctance from the division responsible, the land management division, for caring for the properties. So I want to go over some of the lessons we learned during this process. First one is legality. And I think we're going to hear more about this later. But our petition, original petition language asked for something that the county could not do. We'll learn something more about preemption later. And like a lot of regulations surrounding pesticide use, that happens at the state level. So make sure what you're asking can be done legally. So we actually modified the request to please don't use the glyphosate. And that was fine. Always make sure you have credible references to substantiate your request. On the petitioning itself, just the mechanics of it, the management, make sure you know who has the petitions and that you can get the petitions in time for the county commission meeting. Make sure you're keeping track of your signatures. If you have a target signature, make sure you know where you are to that. Don't collect more information than you need, because a lot of people are turned off by giving personal information. And if you're not going for a ballot referendum, you don't necessarily need, street addresses and full names and stuff like that. But one thing we did include that turned out to be very important was a column for either email or phone number, so that we could contact when we were going to present the petitions. We contacted people who said we could, not to put them on a list, but to talk to the commissioners. And we told them, okay, on such and such a date, we're taking the petitions. Please call your commissioner. And we gave them talking points, or we asked them to show up. And a number of them did, which turned out to be a nice, pleasant surprise and very effective because it showed community support. When you're presenting to the governing body, make sure you're respectful and present facts. We had done a previous IPA request, which is Inspection of Public Records Act in New Mexico. And we knew how many thousands of gallons of pesticides or herbicides were being used on green spaces. And I'll always remember the look two county staffers gave each other when we told the commissioners how many thousands of gallons of glyphosate was being sprayed on, Little League fields, dog parks, senior citizen centers every year. So that was also very effective when they realized, it's like, oh, wow. Another thing, the allies are good. And this is what happened through our petitioning effort. And it was just a delight because not only did Green Party people speak, but we had people from representatives. There was Food Justice Initiative, Native Plant Society, local Sierra Club, neighborhood associations that live, from folks who lived in the Valley. So it was we even got John Schrader, if people know who that is. So it was a pretty broad representation of people asking for the county not to use glyphosate anymore. Another thing that was very effective. One of the things we benefited from greatly was the timing of the first jury award for glyphosate damage. So the headline of a $289 million jury award was easily recalled in the minds of the council, the commissioners, when we made our first request. So all that worked well. There were some things that we did not expect. And one of those, well, like I mentioned, staff resistance. And part of this let me give you a little bit of timeline. So we went to the petition, or to the commission, I'm sorry, the county commission in October. And this was actually a couple years ago. And right, like at the very next meeting, they had a resolution that called for an immediate moratorium on glyphosate use. And they gave the staff, so then they asked for the staff to present them an integrated pest management plan, and gave them 6 months. So there was a temporary moratorium for 6 months, so that the staff could get the plan in place. And this was it was coincident, and it worked well, and it helped with the 5-0 vote on a bipartisan basis, because the moratorium was during the winter months or the cold months when the county wasn't spraying anyway. So the idea was starting a new spray season in the spring without glyphosate, or severely reducing its use, and planning how to not use it in the future. But it appears, through whatever combination of factors, that the field workers were not truly aware or truly appreciative until weeks before spraying season started again, that there was going to be a change. And they saw the removal of glyphosate as taking away a tool that they use to maintain the properties. So that caused a lot of discord and staff resistance. And things kind of got worked through. I think, well, some of the things we learned were the regulatory, but a lot of people are addicted to glyphosate, I think. And there are some regulatory requirements that had to be met, budgetary requirements. One of the good things that came out of the commission action, when they said, you know, we're doing this, and told the staff, show us how to make it work. And the staff response was like, we don't want to do this. But then, you know, the momentum changed, and it was realized that, oh, this is happening. So there was a citizens committee formed. There were a consultant was hired. There was outreach to the State Department of Agriculture and New Mexico Extension, State University Extension, which is, and so there was a lot of knowledge and expertise brought to bear to get this to work. The staff, the leader of the staff of the workers was adamant that there was no equivalent replacement to glyphosate other than mechanical means, which meant hiring people to chop weeds or cut weeds or pull weeds. So that there was kind of some issues with no, and I'll talk about a summary in just a moment. But ultimately, the staff then came to the citizens group with a 3-year phase-out plan. But by the time they got to the commission, it was a 2-year phase-out plan. Citizens still thought the phase-out plan could be done faster, and ultimately the commission passed a 1-year phase-out plan. And so that's.
I do apologize. You're about up for time.
Okay.
If you could just finish
So,
your.
and the Q&A, if people want to know specific things or a little bit more, then I'm happy to fill in the blanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And hopefully we will have time, we'll have some questions answered at the end. Thank you again. I'd like to introduce our next guest, please. It is Danielle Romano, St. Louis Green Party and No Spray St. Louis, who was blocked while using sunshine requests to document herbicide usage in city parks. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, good, good, good. So there are 133 cities in North America that have partial or full no spray policies. You know, Bertha Lewis talked about New York City efforts, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Wellesley, Massachusetts has a fantastic, and they use alternative plans. And I thought, the time was up with glyphosate in this area where I live in St. Louis. Ms. Lewis also talked about the Monsanto Bayer lawsuits, Dwayne Johnson, the Piliads, and there was one other case where they lost and got big settlements against Monsanto Bayer because it could be proven that glyphosate, specifically Roundup, is a carcinogen and can be linked directly to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's the disease Mr. Johnson is dealing with. Well, I discovered this report from the New York City's The Black Institute, which she talked about, Ms. Lewis talked about. And guess what? I thought, hey, if it's happening in New York City, this disproportionate use of, glyphosate-based herbicides in Black, brown, and low-income communities, could it be happening in other places, like where I live in St. Louis? Also, I have to say that Monsanto has a long history of environmental racism. And to just give the highlights here, PCB plants, which were definitely turned out to produce dioxin and were carcinogenic. They were located in Sauget, Illinois, and Anniston, Alabama. These are predominantly African-American low-income neighborhoods. The use of Agent Orange, produced by Monsanto in Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War, and research that. You want to see some horrible pictures, the after effects of that. They're talking about doing, Joe Biden is talking about reviving Plan Colombia, the spraying of Roundup or glyphosate on cocoa fields, which of course doesn't stay on the cocoa fields. It drifts to food fields and it affects people. And then, of course, it's Roundup's heavy agricultural usage, and the field workers are predominantly Latinos. So you can see this long history of environmental racism by this company, and it's based here in St. Louis. Monsanto was, now it's the Bayer Crop Sciences Division. So this prompted me to find out if the city of St. Louis was disproportionately spraying the herbicides in St. Louis city parks in African-American and low-income neighborhoods. I talked to park officials, several park officials, and they admitted that they were using glyphosate. They said, we just use it sparingly, whatever that means, of course. They refused to tell me the exact formulation. The thing about glyphosate-based herbicides, Monsanto owned the patent for many years, Roundup. It expired in the 90s. And that's why they had to invent genetically modified plants to resist herbicides, specifically Roundup. Roundup by contract had to be used. And because now there's, Chem China and many other companies are producing glyphosate-based herbicides. So they wouldn't tell me the exact formulation. And as M. Ward was saying, and others, when you want to, do something, especially go to a public body and get a no spray ordinance, you have to have your facts right. You have to have all your ducks in a row. So I went to the city of St. Louis and filed in they call it a sunshine law request. It's Missouri's version of the Freedom of Information Act. And it's as I discovered, a very weak ordinance with little or no teeth, but I thought I would try. And I filed that in July of last year. Well, right away, what does the city of St. Louis say? They write me back. This was done by email. I interacted with the officer for the city's sunshine law, saying, oh, this will be cost you a minimum of $160. Well, that's a lot of money. and, you know, for a working person. But the thing is that a minimum means that they could charge me anything above that they wanted. And I pushed them for, you know, a more exact accounting of how much it would be cost, which they wouldn't do until a lawyer from the Great Rivers Environmental Law Center became involved and finally got them to say, well, it'll be $160 to $200. What I'm trying to say here is they fought me every step of the way. There were always hurdles like that thrown in my way. And I even modified my request from asking, what I was asking for is how much herbicides and pesticides were purchased for all the St. Louis city parks. I modified that request to say, well, let's just focus on 7 parks. 3 were in the northern area of the city, which is predominantly Black. 3 were in the southern area of St. Louis, which is, you know, mixed now, and the big park, Forest Park, in the middle of the city. They took their time. They threw hurdles. I had to interact with this person. It wasn't until October of last year, 5 months later, that they announced, oh, we're going to give you the paperwork. We'll send it to you by email. And I'm thinking, well, we'll see what we get. And what we got was nothing. They gave me 1 invoice for the, you know, the whole year, which listed various herbicides and pesticides that they use. I should say insecticides, because pesticides includes herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, rodenticides. It listed about 5 of these pesticides. But most importantly, the information they gave me did not mention any glyphosate-based products at all. When I had personally talked to 2 or 3 city officials who admitted that they used a glyphosate-based herbicide. I wrote back saying, you have not supplied me with the information. And the, you know, the city official wrote a terse response that your, you know, your request for the Sunshine Law has been fulfilled and this case is closed. So this is the kind of thing you know, you run into. And I'm wondering, and after we have time, I'd like to hear Bertha Lewis and M. Ward talk about, you know, when they tried to get information to the city, did they run into these obstacles? I guess all I can say in conclusion here is that why are cities like St. Louis, you know, hiding this information, which should be a public record? One must wonder, first of all, I know they're worried about liability, which they should be. Secondly, you have to wonder about the influence of big corporations like Bayer, Monsanto. As I say, Bayer, Monsanto has a lot of influence in St. Louis, given their long history, Monsanto's long history here. You go to many institutions, public and private, around this town, and you'll see the Monsanto Fund. I guess they call it the Bayer Fund now. And of course, you know, the threat that we're going to pull that money out of your institution if you cooperate with, you know, efforts to ban our products or to regulate GMOs and such. But the thing is, my goal is to introduce no spray ordinances here in St. Louis and other Missouri cities. I've talked to folks, we have the Missouri Greens and anyone anywhere that is interested in doing a no spray campaign to get your city council to do this should contact me. I'll put contact information on the chat. The last thing I want to mention, while I have a minute here, is the preemption law. So 43 states, as people talk about, have a preemption law, which says that the state can overrule a local ordinance. And Missouri has such a law. The thing is, though, if 43 states have it, yet 133 cities have passed no spray laws, it means that they can be passed despite the preemption law. So if we get some passed by some city councils here in Missouri, it could be we'll have to deal with the state. It could be a court case. I don't know. But at this point, I think that there is momentum on this idea to get restrictions on pesticide spraying, because as our other guests have shown, and most of you know, they're ubiquitous, and Roundup and glyphosate-based herbicides are everywhere. The scientific debate is
I'm
over.
so sorry. We've got to
Yeah,
move on
let
to
me
the next
finish my
speaker.
sentence. Scientific debate is over. This stuff is harmful. It is and is a carcinogen, and there are alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Kent Rowe, who's an engineer and air pollution investigator in Wichita, works with the Sierra Club and Green Party to find alternatives to herbicides for pest control. Thank you. Kent.
Hi there, Tashkia Hana. I need to share my screen. So I'll have to boot up my PowerPoint. And yeah, I'm with the Kansas Green Party, as well as I'm a former elected mayor from the Green Party of Kansas. Yeah, here we are with the time and space that we're in and what we've become with ourselves. You know, we are in time and space, and we're incessantly under attack. And all the time on our flat screens and our computers, live this way, buy this, buy that, and it all points to the same thing. It's the dominant culture is a group of disinformation. It is not the way we can live sustainably, and we won't live much longer. I would invite you to some of my lectures, but don't bring your children. It is not looking good when we look at things like Arctic News, Cambridge University, with the Arctic methane that's being industry. But we can stop this. And here's the fix, and it's not necessarily a techno fix. And I'll refer you to the film has just come out. It's the Biggest Little Farm, and it shows the interrelationships with all of these things, all of the bugs, all of the four-legged, the two-legged, the winged, the finned, the fish, and so forth. We have a relationship with them, and they have a relationship with the earth. And as for instance, right here is a baby possum. And so, oh my, these things grow up to be real ugly looking things, and they have they're scary, but you know, they eat a lot of ticks. Turkeys eat a lot of ticks in the wild. So in our place out here, we welcome these kind of things. It takes time to achieve this type of balance. I'll just diverge just a little bit to show you what's happening in agriculture and some of the good things that we can expect right now. Well, this is the electrification of the farm economy. And I say electrification, right now, all we have in our homes and our industries is power supply. And a power supply only does that, but electrification allows us to diversify products. We can become more efficient with transportation, rather than extractive industries. And I know some people don't like lithium extraction. I'm agreeing with that. I refer you to the dirty secret about fossil fuels and the carbon that it requires to extract that, transport it, refine it, put it in, transport it back to the distributions and burn it in our vehicles. It's very inefficient compared with the current day lithium. But hemp is another area which can be used to supply batteries. Farm economies can transform into some very, very good plant-based with economies and products from these, and the distribution of those products using wind and solar. And when people that live around windmills are given the opportunity to benefit from those kinds of economic values, that they're with that. The craziness about being insane, wind turbine syndrome, and so forth, kind of goes away. This farm could actually be hemp processing. That requires some energy per unit product, and that way that we can utilize fibers to make these kinds of things. Now, these can go either way. These are agrobots, robotic agriculture. This looks like a monocropped field, yes, but it also could be the beginning of a restoration, rehabilitative, and regeneration of fields, especially on public lands. These are the things, and they can insert probes to the soil to see what kind of nutrients are required because it's been depleted by monocropping and abuse of this. But they can also be used to spray with a non-operator on board being exposed. They can be automated. So again, what's the answer here? Move away from products that utilize these kinds of materials. It's like you eat some things that have been heavily sprayed. It's like calling an airstrike in on yourself. John Deere Company is, again, these nacelles. You see the green part. These could be made of hemp. Vehicles are now being made of hemp, and a lot of materials, wheels, treads. It's very useful and it has a lot of resiliency from hemp. Again, hemp is a nice cover crop. Again, and we can restore the plains. Talk about sequestering carbon and decarbonizing the planet on a continental scale. This has been suggested, and it's being done now with herds of bison, herds of pronghorn antelope, and the like, wolves, the big cats, and the prairie grizzly. And along with them comes the natural habitats that took millennia to evolve on the Great Plains. So the sequestration of carbon. Of course, the bison churn up the prairies, and along comes all of the other things necessary, the pollinators and the ecosystems for all the biodiversity. This is something that's occurring now when you see corridors over highways and roadways to allow the passage of these great migratory herds. And this is the best engineer I know of. You list me as an engineer. Here's the best one I've seen. This is a grizzly bear consuming a carcass of a bison. And it's even suggested that the saliva from the bison, as well as the interaction with the grizzly bears, are part of this great biodiversity in which we really do need to adopt. Coming more into the urban area, the urban arena, we can employ solar, and solar is coming to all strata of the economy, people of all economic, social areas. You can buy solar panels for as little, we bought a group of 40 for around $50 a piece, because they're becoming so more efficient that large installations are swapping them out. And these used solar panels still have the voltages needed. And you can go off grid, so-called behind the meter, without a lot of bureaucratic interference from investor-owned utilities. We're on the co-op ourselves, and they welcome that. We had that horrible the vortex coming in from the north. We started generating that day after, when that sun hit these solar panels, and we started exporting our power as they required to do so. The community garden toolkit, this comes right out of the University of Missouri extensions. We can do this with neighborhoods. I was really impressed with the Black Institute. We should insist on this. And this is mental health augmentation. This is something you could cure problems with the population. People are longing to have breaths of fresh air and growing things and being able to share and create. And here I'll remind you of the molecular structure of aminomethylphosphonic acid, or glyphosate. And here it is, that phosphate bond heavily tied into these oxygens. This is something that we really don't need need in our environment. We have microorganisms in the soil that begins the rehabilitative process, the restoration of soils on a massive scale in public lands. But don't forget also polyethoxylated taloamines, the surfactants that makes these so pervasive in there. And I must say that the glyphosate is so persistent. I have studies here, good solid evidence that we can detect it in our municipal sewer sludge. That's how much we consume in our food, and it's disgusting. That is something that we really need to move away from. We can do this with farming that allows for the production of non-chemically treated materials with electrification, and that we can do this and certainly boycott those products that are laden with these types of compounds. And if you grow a food forest in your community or a community garden, you can continuously monitor utilizing these techniques. I do this, and we can detect the various amounts down to parts per billion of aminomethylphosphonic acids and the polyethoxylated amines, so that we can determine and put the body at the scene of the crime, where it and when it came from. And this is a chart of how it reads out with mass spectrometry, utilizing.
And I'm so sorry, I have to interrupt you.
Well, I'm now finished. Thank you very much. Excellent.
Thank you so much. We'll have some comments and questions after a while. So I need to introduce the man with the plan, Don Fitz, who is the coordinator for this event. Don, you had a message for us?
Yeah, I wanted to tell everybody that on May the 5th, we're going to be having a program on envisioning a greener New Deal. We're going to look at some of the concerns that Kent brought up, concerns with lithium, concerns with all sorts of issues related to alternative energy, what sort of, especially dams, what sort of problems they can cause, and how we can, what the alternatives, what other things we could do, basically to reduce the total amount of energy which is used on the globe. So that will be May the 5th. People should be getting an email about that, and I hope you're able to join us.
Great. Thank you so much, Don. So that was the speaker portion of this webinar. Now we'd like to open it up to comments. First, we would like to introduce Paul Cox from Veterans for Peace, and we've got some slides to show you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me get my share screen going here.
Like that.
Everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
So my name is Paul Cox. I'm a member of Veterans for Peace.
Look at this man's face.
Like that color.
Wow.
There's a lot of chatter. Hold on.
Oh, no, he's about to tell.
Deborah, could you mute your phone, yourself, please? Deborah.
Oh my God.
Okay.
So my name is Paul Cox. I'm a member of Veterans for Peace. I've been working with the Vietnam Agent Orange Relief and Responsibility Campaign for about 15 years on the Agent Orange legacy of the Vietnam War. As people probably know, but I'll just run through it anyway, is about 4.8 million people were exposed to the herbicide of Agent Orange and the other herbicide of Agent Blue during the Vietnam War. About 3 million of those folks are Vietnamese. Most of those are adults, as this horrific picture shows. By the way, I'm going to show you a number of photographs, about 45 photographs, and they are disturbing. So if it's something that might disturb you, you might want to click off your screen. But this fellow is an adult, and as I said, most of the people whose health has been ruined, like this fellow's, by their exposure to the herbicides, there about 15% of them are children, and that's a real issue. And so all the rest of the photographs I'm going to be showing you are of children. The first number of these are children who are fairly high performing, but they have disabilities, physical and mental development problems that have meant that they've been put into some of the orphanages and vocational schools and what the Vietnamese call peace villages to care for them while they are growing up. Some of them will require to be institutionalized during their entire lives. And that's a real problem. It's a real burden on the Vietnamese, who have somewhere between 3 and 7 times the amount of birth defects as most of the rest of the world. And some of those children are fairly high functioning, and then we'll look at a whole number here that are not high functioning at all. These are children who require 24/7 care, and these particular children are in institutions that do care for them and can care for them. But what's really and this is disturbing enough, that these children whose lives will never be normal, there are many, many, many children who are affected by birth defects related and developmental problems related to their or their parents' Agent Orange exposure, who are in the back rooms or the single room in poor parts of the country that are being cared for by elderly and aging parents who will not be able to do that in 10 years, not be able to care for them as they do now. And that's a real public health issue in Vietnam that needs to be addressed now. The US has stepped forward to some degree to help with the dioxin contamination that continues to be in a number of areas in Vietnam, but it is doing almost nothing to help the Vietnamese victims. I would urge,
I'm so sorry. Okay.
I would urge folks to check out the Vietnam, the HR 326, the Victims of Agent Orange Relief and Response, the Victims of Agent Orange Relief Act of 2019. It is going to be reintroduced with a different number, but the same basic bill shortly. I put that in the chat. So thank you very much.
Thank you kindly. Sorry to interrupt y'all. We're just trying to keep the timeline. So this is a moment where we'll be making comments, and we need to limit the comments to 2 minutes, please. First up, we have Rick Sprout. Rick, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Very briefly, I'm from the Broome-Tioga Green Party in New York, Binghamton, New York. And I also work with a group called the Mid-State Council on Occupational Safety and Health. We're a bottom-up worker-centered health and safety committee. We do education. And I guess one of the things that I just, very briefly, there are 2 groups that I would recommend. And if you write to me, send me an email, I'll send you, because I don't have the addresses. But they're the Protecting Workers Alliance and the National Council for Occupational Safety and Health. I think a lot of people don't realize, well, maybe they do, but working in pesticides and chemical plants, being a farm worker, a dairy worker, these are incredibly dangerous jobs, and they're the front line where people are injured or where they're killed. Everything that was listed in the first presentation, we do we do workshops with farm workers and other people. It's the only kind of work that people can get in a lot of areas. And working with workers around these issues is incredibly important. So, you know, a lot of times when workers are resisting, you know, these changes, it's not because they don't want them. It's because they're the only jobs that they can get. There's a story that just came out recently about a lead plant in Florida where the people were getting paid $20 an hour. You know, that was the only job that they could get. And that's pretty common. You know, it's pretty common how capitalism makes people fight amongst each other and makes people scramble for jobs that they wouldn't necessarily want. So if you send me an email, I'll give you the information. I would suggest any green groups like we have, reaching out to workers is really important in any kind of struggle. So that's all. Great presentations for everybody.
Great. Thank you so much, Rick. If you want to leave your email address in the chat, I'm sure
Sure.
people will pick that up.
Okay.
Our next comment will be from Suzanne Hume. Are you there, Suzanne?
Hi, I am. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. First of all, I have to say thank you so much to everyone here. And your work is so very important. I just put into the chat, I was poisoned by pesticides right outside my home, and I was told I had to move by my doctor. So that left me in a very bad position of caring very much about I'm a teacher, the kids in my neighborhood and the people there, and needing to move because I could no longer have any more exposure. So my lungs were burned and still are, and I couldn't speak. So I went to Scripps Clinic. I live in Oceanside, California, and then I was sent to UCSD. And so we had a very difficult decision that we needed to make. And so I worked really hard. I left my job and I started cleanersforkids.org. I don't take a salary. We have a couple of our amazing interns on here now. Anna is a project manager. Darren also helps with pesticides. Leanna wants to be a senator. Hannah was on, but anyway, we would just like to say thank you so much. Anna put a sign-on letter for PACTPA, Protecting America's Children from Toxic Pesticides. And so if you want to put your organization logo, that would be great. A big shout out to PAN, Pesticide Action Network, who also has a petition that we put in there. We also have SAPA in there as well, Saving America's Pollinators Act. And so it's in committee in the House, but needs to be passed in the Senate. So next week, I'd like to invite everybody to our panel discussions. We have weekly panel discussions on cleanersforkids.org. They're youth-led. Our youth are very knowledgeable about the chemicals and things that we need to be avoiding. So we passed a non-toxic IPM in Oceanside, and we'd like to talk to you about how we did this and also get your ideas. I know my time is running up, but feel free to hop on our call next week and every week if you'd like at cleanersforkids.org. I'd love to connect with you, and we'll work really hard together. So thank you. And a big shout out to everyone on this call, and great job to Mackenzie with starting that org, Herbicide Free Campus. So yeah, excited. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. Our next comment will be from Deborah Rice Cartway. I hope I said your name right. Deborah? Deborah, are you here? I don't know if you guys want to move on.
Yeah.
She's muted.
Oh dear. Deborah, you seem to be muted.
Yes.
Hello.
Mute herself. There she is.
Okay, we got you.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Just a minute. Let me close the door. I think it's a background noise going on. So yes, I represent Earth Dance Organic Farm School, and we are here in Ferguson, Missouri, and we are a 100-year-old organic farm. We haven't been there 100 years, but the farm has been there 100 years, and they have been practicing organic processing for that long. So the previous owner sold the property 11 years ago to my director, and her name is Molly Rockerman. And she turned all her visions into bringing healthy food to her neighborhood she implemented this farm school, which we teach organic processing of farming. We have a school that we actually teach all ages from preteens up through adulthood. Right now we are in a contract grant with the Ferguson Florissant School District, and we are having spring training for teachers and any residents in 6 surrounding municipalities for free. They can come, and we offer these classes to them free, and they get to know how to preserve their property and how to be stewards of the earth, and how to also develop skills to grow their own food in their own spaces. So I'm really not the farm person. I'm the outreach coordinator, but I've been with them for 3 years now, and I live in the community, and it's based right smack dead in Ferguson. So it's in the city, 14-acre farm that is hidden back in. It's just like a little gym, and we do not use pesticides at all. And we process our food and we offer it to the community through farmers markets. And we also have partnership with area pantries, and we donate food, and we're all about healthy eating and growing healthy farmers. So
sorry, Deborah. I just your time's up. Thank you so much. I have to introduce the next commenter.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone. Deborah. Okay, so the next person we have is Sarah Rubinstein. Sarah, are you with us?
I am. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Rubinstein. I am a staff attorney with Great Rivers Environmental Law Center in St. Louis. We are a nonprofit law firm providing legal services to organizations, citizen groups, and individuals who have the common goal of working to protect the environment and public health in Missouri and in parts of Illinois. We work through the courts and through the administrative agencies and through city and county offices to safeguard the environment. So this subject matter presented tonight is of particular interest to several of our program areas, including working to protect clean air and clean water in our environment. We also have a particular focus in environmental justice issues, and a lot of the spraying pesticide issues, as several of the speakers pointed out, tend to have a unfortunately disparate impact on those communities. I just want to introduce myself and our organization and to make ourselves known as being available to work on these kind of issues for whether it's neighborhood groups or environmental organizations or even individuals that want to take action and fix this problem in Missouri or Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Let's see, I'm trying to keep up with who is the next person leaving a comment. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so Rachel Linden. Rachel,
How are you this
hi.
evening?
Great, thank you.
I'm on the East Coast. It's a little late here, but I wanted to do a few shameless plugs. So I help by working with activists all across the country with non-toxic communities and with the nonprofit I run based out of Los Angeles, which is Green Lifestyles Network. And we work in tandem to promote and let folks know about a few amazing things and assets that not all activists know about. And I put in the chat bar a direct link where you can find this for yourself for free. It's in the comments, but this is organic land care standards. Okay, and the reason why this is significant, and it's just a small little booklet. It's easy to understand. It's only 62 pages. It's preferred, allowed, and prohibited practices that include mostly cultural practices and some product information. So the benefits of this are, I mean, you could try and ban chemicals one by one in your town, which is a very labor intensive and difficult process to do. Or one of the things that you could do is you could just say, I want to adopt organic land care standards. And you could do that several different ways. The most recommended way is to ask for organic land care standards in the form of a pilot program. And you put that through in your town or your city by promoting a resolution, and a copy of that can be found at nontoxiccommunities.com under resources. You'll see pilot program resolution. You can also put forward an ordinance that takes a little bit longer. You can also put forward an organic resolution, and that is a commitment for your town to go organic and it's really a 3-page document. It's super easy to understand. It lays out the argument for organic land care practices, why pesticides are harmful. And of course, everybody knows about pesticides, but very few people, even activists, understand how harmful synthetic herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, biocides, toxic fertilizers, sewage sludge, or biosolids, and the benefits of organic compost, etc. This booklet, which is easy to understand, free to download, and is referenced within those resolutions, is a great way to get a program moving forward in your town. If you are interested in understanding why it's important and what the problems are, the ones that are most relevant in this argument are laid out in this book. This just came out by Carrie Gillum. It's called the Monsanto Papers. And sorry, it looks like I may have lost my screen.
Yeah, time's up. I have to introduce the next speaker.
All right,
okay,
great.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate you.
No worries, thank you.
So our next commenter, we've got Danielle Karam.
It's Danielle Karam with the
Karam, I'm so sorry about that. Thank you.
That's fine. From the Green Party in Kansas City. Just have sort of a comment here or opinion. I feel like it's to the choir. So here it goes. What does it take for people to believe in lies? What does it take for some people to stop believing in lies? Pertinent questions when dealing with mega corporations that are affecting the lives of millions, especially when lies form the basis of information these corporations are spewing to the public as valid and useful information. It is well documented that Exxon Oil Company did extensive studies about the future results of carbon on environmental conditions in the 1980s. To protect their interests and financial gain, there were efforts to keep these studies away from the public and promote information that was favorable to the use of fossil fuels. They have been sued for such activity, but somehow the courts have not found sufficient evidence to render a guilty verdict. And now Monsanto is dealing with lawsuits claiming that their products have contributed to the cause of cancer in thousands of litigants. To stave off further prosecution, an offer extending into the billions has been made. This offer includes the acceptance of no guilt. How convenient, especially when this is a recurring practice and is seen as an acceptable business as usual, as long as the profit margin allows. Pardon me. It is frustrating and downright discouraging to see advanced technology and the best of our talent being used in this way. Time for a change, and the earth is waiting for only so long before it brings about balance that human endeavor will have no choice in. From myself, Danielle Karam, co-chair of the Green Party of Kansas City chapter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danielle. We would like to introduce Elston McCowan. Oh, wait, I think I got a message that they were not feeling well.
I was hanging on as long as I could. I was getting ready to get off. I'm still recovering from some of that COVID vaccine stuff. But good evening, everybody. Excellent job, Delilah. Excellent. And I thank Don Fitz, the Gateway Green Alliance, and all of those, Universal African People Organization, and everybody who's participating and have been participating in these kinds of forums for over decades. Just on behalf of the St. Louis City NAACP, just want to know that we are endorsing everything possible that's going on as it relates to fighting against environmental racism and racism period, but definitely environmental racism that has a very adverse effect on the African community, African American community, and the communities of color, as well as those poor communities. There is a environmental justice toolkit that the NAACP has that's available. Folks can go on to www.naacp.org and look for that. And in fact, if you have 15, well, after the COVID is over with, I imagine, and it's safe to get back out and meet in larger groups. But we could put something together where people of 15 or more, we will come to your place and actually do a presentation and give everybody the environmental justice toolkit. Just want to encourage everybody to stay safe and well during this Corona season, this epidemic. This stuff is serious and it's taking a lot of people's lives. So keep me in your thoughts and prayers as I try to recover from those vaccines even. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Elston. I hope you feel better soon. Appreciate you. Our next person who'd like to leave a comment, Steve Newman, please. If you're around, Steve, are you here? I don't actually. All right.
Delilah, this is Bertha.
Hi.
I somehow or another, I don't know how to send the chat, but I am on the East Coast too, and I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin. So if I could just say good night to everyone, and just a final comment for folks, if that would be okay.
I think it should be okay.
Right,
I appreciate you staying.
So, hi everyone. I'm sorry to have to leave you, but you know how these East Coast people are. Somebody had asked a question about the obstacles that we ran into in getting information about the spraying in parks. It is difficult, but it can be done. We got a lot of obstacles. In New York City, every single borough has a different method in their parks. You have to put it all together. And it seems as though those of us in this fight know how difficult it is, but we have to keep fighting. And sometimes we can win, and we will win if we just keep fighting. I'm so happy to see everyone here And I do want to get a copy of all the chats so I can get all of the emails. If my guy Jacob is still on, Jacob, if you could put our website and Poison Park's link into the chat, that would be good. Just want to say, don't let people tell you that it's about money. Public health costs more than getting rid of these pesticides, these herbicides, and there are different ways to do this. I do want to give a shout out to the folks in Philly, Toxic Free Philly, and I also need to give some credit to Reverend Billy and the Stop Shopping Choir, people in New York City know who they are. So thank you, Reverend Billy, for keeping up the fight. And I am very concerned about President Biden and whatever he thinks he's doing on the environment. All of us need to weigh in with this new administration and let them know that Democrats can poison us just as well as Republicans can. And we want to make sure that if we're spending trillions of dollars, our new President Biden needs to be environmentally correct and not taking the way out from before. So thank you all very, very much. Anybody that needs to get in touch with us, just go to the Black Institute, theblackinstitute.org. Send me a question. I'll send you our reports, and I will try to stay in touch with everyone.
So sorry.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, thank you so much. Apologies for running over a bit, y'all. Right, so back to who is next. Manny Pintado would like to leave a comment. Are you there, Manny?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yes, I'm here. I'm Manny Pintado. I represent the Latinx caucus in the United States. Also, I'm a member of the Pioneer Valley GRP in Massachusetts. This is a very important topic. As a matter of fact, we have a page that is called, let me share with all of you. Millions Against Monsanto, Massachusetts, that I can share on the chat, and all of you can, like it and put comments on it. There's so much stuff that with Monsanto, Just with Justice, we have rallies because we have a big corporation right there in Springfield, Massachusetts. But like Em said earlier, one of the speakers, I just found out, that they've been doing, going to forcing actually Mexico and other Latino countries with the glyphosate, with using those pesticides that are, causing cancer. So I thank you all the speakers and everyone for showing this. And I think we need to do more than just doing this, Green Party presentations. I think we need to make it more viral so people can know more about it. And thank you, Dan, for inviting me. And I'm so glad here to be a member of the Green Party, represent, my Latinx, and also we're gonna keep fighting. Anything that is killing. Not only are, because Monsanto does, and now that they've been bought, by Bayer company, so now they still are trying to get all their products into, farmers. And when farmers stops, they go into litigation and start taking the farmers, farms away. So they are more than just a dangerous company. They are criminals, and they should be taken out. Or when I say taken out, it's brought to justice and close the company down. So thank you.
Thank you. I agree with you, Manny. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Miss Madeline Hoffman, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to read so that, and keep the video off to save bandwidth. So my name is Madeline Hoffman. I was the Green Party of New Jersey's candidate for US Senate in 2018 and 2020. I'm currently a co-chair of the Green Party US Peace Action Committee. And I wanted to speak specifically to the issue of Colombia, which has been raised multiple times here. And I'll start with the fact that our current president is no angel on this at all. In fact, he was the author of and the point person for Plan Colombia, which was all about, the drug war, and introduced aerial spraying of Roundup and glyphosates in Colombia. And so I'm planning in May I'm going to be going to Colombia to look at what's happening with what's produced by campesinos, by the indigenous, and by Afro-Colombianos in the port city of Buenaventura. And I'm very much concerned that that Joe Biden is urging Colombian farmers to return to the practice of the aerial spraying of glyphosates over much of Colombian farmland. And the title of this webinar is Herbicide Spraying Is War. And I want to say that it's not only an act of war on the environment, on people's health, on the crops, and so on, but also this would really sound the death knell on the peace accords that were signed in 2016 after 9 years of work, because the peace accord said we'll find a different kind of crop for the farmers to use so they don't have to use Roundup and aerial spraying. So we're in a position now where herbicides is war, and Joe Biden is right at the center of it. And I would just like to say and ask that we come up with some kind of campaign to go after Joe Biden on this, to tell him not to continue to recommend aerial spraying.
Thank you so much, Madeline.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, I hope I pronounced your name right, is Kim Skypes.
It's Sipes. Thank you. Welcome,
thank
everybody.
you.
No problem. I want to follow. I'm speaking on behalf of Green Social Thought, which is a left-green newsletter and website, greensocialthought.org. Highly recommend it. But I want to follow what Paul Cox had. That was the gentleman that talked about Vietnam and spraying there. Those were some pretty horrific photos that he showed. But compared to the photos that are in Vietnam, and I've taught in Vietnam, and in Ho Chi Minh City, there's a museum called the War Remnants Museum. Now, I'm a vet. Unfortunately, I didn't get sent to Vietnam during the war, but I have taught over there. And the pictures that they have of children who have been sprayed by Agent Orange are so horrific that I can't even endure walking through the whole museum. Paul's pictures were not by far the extreme. And the point I want to make, and this follows what Madeline was just saying about Colombia and stuff, is herbicides are tools of war, and they use them. The excuse is to deny guerrilla armies any kind of cover, and so that they can't slip up on attack bases and stuff, which, by the way, are often U.S. bases, as in Colombia. But what that does, that not only poisons the environment, but it poisons the people. It poisons certainly the people that it's sprayed on. And one of the things that we found out in Vietnam was that while the U.S. Was spraying on Vietnamese, it was also poisoning U.S. servicemen. And so we've got 3 and 4 generations of people who are passing on Agent Orange in the United States. And they didn't get near the spray that the Vietnamese got, nor what the Colombians will get. So I want to strongly urge that we think of this not as just some sort of a technical tool, but it's a tool of war, and there's no way around it. And that we support any effort to ban that by the US or any other country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we've got Shayna Crystal. Are you there? Did I say your name right, Shayna? I don't see her. I see some folks are checking out. Dawn, is there a speaker? Is somebody who wanted to make a comment after?
This is Katie Singer. I was, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you, yes.
Great. I'm a writer, and my focus has been on the health and environmental effects of exposure to radiation from telecommunications. And more recently, I've been writing about the internet's energy use, greenhouse gas emissions, toxic waste, worker hazards. I'm interested in cradle-to-cradle evaluations of devices and infrastructure, and also in finding common ground. And I have a couple things that have come up for me from this evening. First, I heard recently that women soccer players have an extremely high rate of breast cancer, and they believe it's because soccer fields are sprayed with pesticides. So that could be a place to find common ground. Also, Monsanto and John Deere got married a few years ago. I don't know, probably a couple decades ago. And they now make tractors that are laden with computers that tell in real time exactly the kind of seed, pesticide, herbicide, fungicide, weather predictions, everything for a particular parcel of land. And they depend on infrastructure, which has to be wireless. So we're going to 5G from 4G, partly to support these kinds of tractors. And and all of this electrification takes away our human knowing about how to farm, how to grow vegetables, how to take care of land. I'm very concerned about that. And I also need to say that I report on the ecological disasters, unfortunately, with solar photovoltaics and with wind turbines. And if you go to ourweb.tech/letters, you can read some of the reports, specifically solar panels that we have, I think, 200 species of aquatic insects, and they mistake the surface of solar panels for the surface of water. And they lay their eggs on the solar panels and go extinct. There are so many problems with solar panels. With wind turbines, they kill bats in record numbers, and one bat will eat 1,000 insects per hour. So there are many problems that we need to look at in the big picture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie. Yes, so next up, we've got Anna Schiffelbin.
Schiffelbin.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm from the Illinois Green Party, and I just wanted to say thank you to all the speakers. This is something in my personal neighborhood, me and my husband always complain about with the neighbors who spray chemicals. And just the other day they were out there, I had to close my door, just telling our kids don't play on their lawn. So it's definitely an issue out there. And if anybody wants to organize this, we have Base Camp, we have Action Network. So drop me a line. I'm at volunteer@ilgp.org. Love to help organize and build awareness on this. Thank you.
I'm so sorry, I was on mute. Okay, so the next speaker we have, thank you so much, by the way. Amanda Plunkett, please.
Hey, hi. So I'm here to represent non-toxic communities. So Rachel had talked a little bit about that. In addition to what she had said, I would like to bring out the Organic Land Care Project, which is in conjunction with the Organic Landscape Association, because our mission is to train and educate the public on how to move their communities and their cities to cultural and sustainable land care management, where it's not a product for product swap or a focus on a specific set of chemicals, because after all, a pesticide is a pesticide, whether it's organic or synthetic. And specifically, I'm a pollinator specialist. And this is significant because we are in the 6th mass extinction, which is primarily human caused. And scientists are in a panic over the insect apocalypse and what they're calling a biodiversity oblivion. So this isn't just about humankind, but our environment as a whole and the wildlife. So I want to bring out a few studies real quick, specifically a 2014 Germany study that was done in protected spaces, which did not use pesticides. Over 27 years, they found that 75% of the insect biomass had disappeared. Now, this is significant because these were protected areas. But as we know, insects fly, they crawl, they go all sorts of places. They don't stay put. And what they found was that the difference and that decline was based on the chemicals used and the increase in chemicals used on the agricultural lands that surrounded the areas. Now, people may think this isn't a big deal. These are just bugs. But now, what are bugs? They're the bases of the food chain. That's 2/3 of the food chain wiped out. And we're sitting on top of that food chain. And then shortly thereafter, countries started showing declines of their bird populations. So in 2016, the United Nations had mentioned that 40% of our insect invertebrate pollinators are at risk of extinction and 16% of our vertebrate pollinators. That's 56% of our pollinators are at risk of extinction in the next few decades. And the task force said that overall, really, it was the accumulation of these products. So this is a worldwide thing that we can do locally in our cities, but it does need to be a system-based approach, not products.
Thank you so much, Amanda. If we could move on to Frederick Clarkson, please. Frederick. Frederick, are you there? I don't actually hear from him. I don't see him here. Do y'all want to move on with the next speaker? Okay, so Miss Brysa Frazier, if you're there,
yes.
Can
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, sorry if I mispronounced your name.
Oh, you're good. It's Marissa. I'm a representative with the Missouri Sierra Club. And I don't want to repeat anything that's been said, but I do want to make a few comments about what we're seeing in Missouri and potentially some opportunities that we actually have regarding areas that we could affect, like public areas. There's like along the highways, of course, are public right-of-ways, and we're seeing these highway trucks go through and just spray these pesticides indiscriminately, as well as public utilities. Like there are private easements that exist on public utilities, but that is something that the public could actively engage in if we do want to see less use of these pesticides. Those are areas that I would look at targeting. And that's something that if anybody in Missouri wants to work on, please do reach out to me. I will drop my email in the chat. But, as we used to be able to drive down the highway and, or take a road trip and your windshield would be covered in bugs. And that's just no longer the case. So we're seeing the loss of biodiversity. And of course, the ditches along the roadways are where the stormwater goes. So those chemicals are ending up in our rivers and our streams. So there's, you know, large concern to the waterway as well. I do want to be clear, some of the herbicides that can be used effectively in spot treatments to help control invasives and therefore improve habitat, but that's not what we're seeing. That's like a minuscule amount of these herbicide and insecticide applications. The things that we are really concerned about are the indiscriminate application of these pesticides. So spraying entire parks to control dandelions, for example, or the application of multiple coats of glyphosate to monoculture fields of Roundup Ready corn, Roundup Ready wheat and soybeans, which is destroying the microbiome of the soil. As the first video had said, the surfactants in the glyphosate is what helps it absorb into the plants, and then it absorb into our gut the same way, and wreaks havoc on our gut microbiomes. And of course, there's the insecticides, the neonics, which are indiscriminate in killing insects as well. So don't want to repeat anything that's said, but those insecticides, like the neonicotinoids, like the European Union has banned those. So that is something we should look at, and getting away from killing dandelions, because those are one of the best liver supporting substances, but we are spraying it with chemicals that destroy our bodies and our livers. So that's all I got. Thank you. Thanks for everybody.
Thank you so much, Marissa. No, it's okay. Thank you. Next up, we've got Gigi Larrington.
Hi, Delilah. Thank you very
Hi.
much. Representing the Southwest, apparently. I haven't heard too many others from here. I'm in Tucson, Arizona, with a group called Toxin Free Pima County. We've had a direct experience with Monsanto bringing a greenhouse into our community. And our founder of our group, Melissa Diane Smith, is a nutritionist, author, and investigative journalist who took it on and rallied people to resist. The deal was done, and they did do the greenhouse where they're sending out GMO seed corn around the world. But we were able to stop their tax break and began to teach over the next year or so a number of educational information about GMOs and organic foods as an alternative. And then in April of 2018, we attended the Beyond Pesticides 36th annual conference in Irvine. And on the field trip, I stood on an organic grass playing field and was blown away by the beauty of it. Lush. I had to take my shoes off to really enjoy it, and came back inspired that it can be done in the same way that the city of Irvine did. And 155 other communities had done this also. Arizona does have one of the preemptive laws, which we've not directly tried to challenge at all. The organic first movement, inspired by the city of Irvine, was to simply bypass it by just switching to organic landscape management. And so the city did pass an organic first ordinance. They developed an integrated weed management program. They still don't have a policy, an integrated pest management policy per se, but the 2 demonstration fields are currently under construction. We were able to help them get a grant from Stonyfield Farms, who's been helping many, many communities do this. A year ago, we saw the film Kiss the Ground, which I highly recommend, along with the one already mentioned, The Biggest Little Farm. But Kiss the Ground tells us that we can actually influence climate through these cover crops, essentially, of organic grasses. And our goal is to expand this program around the city to upscale the acreage, since a soccer field is 1.5 acre and a football field is 1.5 and a soccer field is 1.3. And parks, we can get more carbon sequestered. And Tucson joined in with—
Geraldine, I'm so sorry. We have a lot of more comments to go through. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Alexis Lucky. Alexis, are you there? I think you're on mute. Her mic is on mute. Do you guys want to move on to the next one? Okay, sorry, Alexis. Okay, so Sadie Francis, are you available?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening. My name is Sadie. I'm from Toxic Free Philly. This past January, we passed a citywide ordinance banning all synthetic herbicides on public lands after about 18 months, and it applies to golf courses and playgrounds and for 36 months. And we did this by presenting the pesticide use as a public health crisis that was exacerbating and intersectional with the environmental racism public health crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic public health crisis. And what we had to do was essentially educate our city council members of why it was a public health crisis, because nobody knew anything about it. And it's a shame that Bertha left before I could say hi to her, because Bertha and Ryan from the Black Institute and their report on poison parks was pivotal in our ushering this bill through city council. It was passed through city council with unanimous vote. We have 17 city council members. And the most opposition we got was actually from a group of called themselves environmentalists, the environmentalist clientele, who claimed that it wasn't possible to decouple biodiverse habitat management and chemical dependency. They saw these things as together, and there's no way you could separate them. And they admitted that they didn't know how to do another way, and that was their main opposition. So Pennsylvania has a preemption law. Pennsylvania has a preemption law on a lot of things that Philadelphia is trying to do right now, including pesticide, plastic regulation, gun control. We want to ban styrofoam. We're being stopped from doing all of those things because we have a Republican-led state legislature. So it's a complicated issue, but if anyone wants to reach out to us, our website is toxicfreephilly.org, and it's toxicfreephilly@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sadie. Next up is Coffee Right. Did I get that right? Yields? There we are. Hello.
Hello. Hi, am I up?
It's your turn. Yes, please.
Oh, okay, great. Hi. First of all, thank you, everyone. My name is Coffee Right. And I just want to say, actually, I'm representing UAPO for Zaki Baruti, President General. And as everyone shared, I appreciate all the information. It's opened my eyes even more to what's going on. My mom was a victim, or should I say is a victim of this warfare, this chemical warfare, where they sprayed the Pruitt-Igoe projects back in the 50s, and it affected my mom, her siblings, and everything. They told them alive that it was some type of screen protecting, but in case Russia attacked, which really it was toxic warfare. But also we're dealing with here in St. Louis in North County, there's Monsanto, the Coldwater Creek. For those who may not be familiar with it, get a chance to Google that. That is spreading cancer rapidly throughout North County. It's a Facebook page on there as well, where everyone is sharing how many people in their family are dying of all these various type of cancers, and family children are having these deformities because of, again, Monsanto's and these various pesticides. So with that being said, I'm 200% committed, even more so, to continuing to help fight and to fight more. Whoever's on board, I appreciate the information that everybody is sharing. As you know, I ran for United States Senate in 2018, and I'm getting back in the race. This is going to be one of my primary events and causes that I fight for. I know you are a Green Party. I ran on the Democrat. I'm not sure which way I'm running this time, but I'm fighting regardless. It's people over party. It has nothing to do with what party, whatever party I'm fighting for this. You can hold me to it 200%. I'll put it in writing, whatever you need, because this is ridiculous. This is warfare, not only against Black people and poor people, it's against the entire country. It's against all people. It's against the environment. It's against our animals. It's against life, human life. And we have to put a stop to this. We have to cut them off at the knees. And thank you for your time. I'm Coffee Right. And thank you, Don and the Green Party. I rode with you all with with Elizabeth Betsy Mitchell when she ran for St. Louis County Executive, and I'm rolling with you. I'm rolling with what's right. It's about people over party. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Coffee.
Absolutely.
Our next speaker is Marianne Gaston. Marianne, are you there? I think you're on mute right now. Hi there.
Hi, I'm representing University Heights Board Association. University Heights is a neighborhood in University City in St. Louis. The Neighborhood Board Association has been very active, most recently in a community playground vacant lot area that some people wanted to use herbicides on, and we opposed that. So we recently formed a task force, and we're doing email and flyers to inform the neighborhood about the dangers of pesticides and herbicides, and hopefully establish a network and then move on to the municipality of University City, and hopefully then on to St. Louis County. So several members, Don and Barb, are both active in the Green Party. So as we expand our network, hopefully we will educate our neighborhood to move to more organic forms of yard and garden maintenance. So this is a very informative webinar.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Okay, so the next comment was written by Ike Nahum, and Don will be reading it.
Hi, am I live?
You actually, I don't see you on the screen, Don.
Oh, okay, good enough. Well, I can read it and people can look at you. This is from Ike Nahum of the U.S. Cuba Normalization Coalition. It's a solidarity message. And it says, thank you to Don, the Missouri Green Party, and the organizers of this important webinar for the invitation to give us solidarity message on behalf of the International U.S.-Cuba Normalization Conference Coalition. We're happy to identify with your efforts and the excellent panel you have put together. Revolutionary Cuba, with its great example for oppressed people around the globe, has been subjected to many bipartisan aggressions from the United States government over many decades to this day, precisely to snuff out this living example of toxic biological and chemical attacks and the introduction of biological elements into Cuba to sabotage Cuban agriculture. These have also introduced shameless disease into the Cuban population. These US attacks and shameful slanders continue even as Cuba carries out amazing advances in medical internationalism during the COVID-19 pandemic. And he mentions the website, which is us-cubanormalization.org. Let's unite to defeat for all time the criminal US blockade. Okay, that is from Ike Nahum.
Great, thank you. I did see another request to make a comment from Jim Jenko.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. I'm also with Veterans for Peace. I'm in Albuquerque, and I'm going to talk about pollution, including pesticides at Fort Wingate near Gallup, New Mexico. The fort was built on ancestral lands of the Navajo and the Zuni. Over 200 Navajo ruins were discovered on the property, and the land served for centuries as hunting and gathering area for the Zuni. From 1940 till the base closed in 1993, Fort Wingate was an ammunition depot and also stored and transferred munitions and pesticides at great cost to the environment. In 1950, the Bureau of Indian Affairs was given part of the contaminated land for an Indian boarding school. The attempt to clean up Fort Wingate began 4 years before the fort closed in 1993, and it continues to this day, 28 years later. Another concern besides the contamination from pesticides and munitions is PFAS, or perfluoroalkyl substances, in and around military bases, not only in New Mexico, but across the country. From 1970 until recently, the military used PFAS to fight fires, usually fires they lit themselves as training exercises. PFAS has been linked to reproductive problems, liver and kidney disease, cancer, and many other diseases. In New Mexico, where I live, the state's environmental department has issued violation notices to the Air Force and tried to get the Air Force to clean up groundwater contamination. Unfortunately, there is some uncertainty regarding whether the state has the authority to demand that the Air Force clean up its mess. In short, the Department of Defense believes it can operate with impunity. The matter is in litigation at this point. I want to close, though, by breathing some sparks of hope into all of this. Our current Secretary of the Interior is Deb Haaland, a member of the Laguna Pueblo of New Mexico, and the first Native American Secretary of the Interior. She oversees a department that manages about 1/5 of the land in the United States. She's aware firsthand that Native Americans are among those disproportionately affected by the pollution of the land, the water, the air. I'll leave you with these words from Deb Haaland. I'll be fierce for all of us, our planet, and all our protected land. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very well stated.
We have next Melinda Hemmelgarn. Melinda, are you still with us?
Yes. I am. Thanks. I needed to unmute.
Okay.
I'll just give a very short closing because Don asked me sort of last minute if I would do this. First of all, what I have witnessed here tonight is an amazing collection of people who have stories and strategies for us all. And if we feel alone in this fight, all we have to do is tune into one of these webinars and realize that we are a huge collective group of people who truly care. I'm actually a registered dietitian, and I host a radio program that's nationally syndicated called Food Sleuth Radio, with a mission to connect the dots between food, health, and agriculture, with a leaning towards environmental and social justice. So many of your stories and strategies I would love to help amplify moving forward. I also want to let everyone know that I am on the board of Beyond Pesticides, and we are planning right now our forum that will take place from May 24th through mid-June. So it will be multiple weeks with different speakers. So tune in and stay connected, and somehow we need to find a way, I think, to bring these strategies and organizations together so that we don't have to reinvent wheels. I'm very interested in the horrific stories of the people who have been affected by these pesticides. I can relate to pesticide drift in my own community. And I recently wrote a note just to my neighbors, starting very small, asking them not to use these chemical sprays, how they harm children and pets especially, but also give images showing what drift looks like. Because many times we'll experience pesticide drift, but we won't be able to recognize it. We'll think, oh, maybe my plants just have a virus or some kind of disease. So again, just another strategy angle, but the importance of staying all connected and sharing our stories and strategies is very powerful. So thank you, Don, and everyone who spoke tonight.
I'm sorry about that. I was on mute. Thank you so much. It looks like we are out of time for comments. What a great webinar, everybody. Thank you all so much for participating and being here tonight. I don't know if Dawn has anything left to say, but this is a very great educational experience and I'm honored. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Just tune in next May 5th to hear about how to overcome problems with the Green New Deal. Thanks to everybody for tuning in tonight.
And Delilah, thank you. You're a great moderator.
Thank you so much.
Don't end the meeting until people can save the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, Em, a lot of people wanted to know more about your story. I'm sorry, we ran out of time. Hopefully we can have you on another forum soon.
If I could just say one warning is that the battle isn't over once the resolution is passed. Because
Correct.
you face things like inadequate resources or public backlash, misinformation, stuff like that. So there are still things that come after the resolution is passed.
Gotcha. That's I took notes. I hope everybody else did. Yeah, and then just keep us in your emails and we'll talk soon again.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
You're amazing. Bye.
Thank you all.
Everyone for coming.